Welcome along to tutorial 5. Hopefully you'll remember this position from tutorial 3. In that video we said that we would exclude the moves to g5 and to d2. However, we didn't give any reason for this. Now, a simple explanation as to not necessarily why they are bad moves, because in fact a move to g5 isn't that bad at all. More precisely, the reason why we wouldn't play this move too often is that you're taking too many frontier discs, more than you need to in fact. For example, an experienced player glancing at this position would rule out a move to d2 because you flip both pieces at d3 and e3, while if you play the move to e2 instead, which is the move we decided was best last time around, you leave the d2 move open to be played on your next move, or some other move in the future. So the theory involved is why play a move that takes away two possible moves, when instead we can play a move that allows us to play both options. This is an important concept to remember, because what we will look at this time around is what to do if, for all your searching, you can't find a move that allows you to control the centre of the bunch. Take this position for example. Black's normal reply to the e2 move is in fact a move that makes no effort to control the centre, b6. This is simply because any other move that black can make appears to enhance white's position in the centre of the bunch. For example, a move to g4, in an effort to cut white's pieces in half, can be met with a reply to d2, re-centralising and rejoining white's pieces. So what black is doing with a move to b6 is to bide its time and wait for an opportunity to connect its pieces that hopefully white will grant black in the near future. This type of small move are commonplace amongst new players that have only just started to grasp the concept of minimisation, but lack the strategic understanding to effectively achieve it. In this position there are three moves for white that only take one piece: c3, g3 and g5. However, all of them are wrong, and the loudest possible move to c5 is correct. So you can see this in itself is difficult to grasp, because sometimes a small move is good, and sometimes it lacks the correct focus. A small move should typically be used to try to get your opponent to play his or her pieces into an undesirable area for them. The best and most exaggerated example of this comes in the form of a very popular opening, and one that is worth learning if you're unfamiliar with it, called the rotating flat opening. The opening stems from another, which is called rose, which is denoted by this move to e2. Notice that in this position, the bunch is split into two halves. White occupies the northwest, allowing its moves only in the southeast, and the opposite is true for black. Both colours are going to try to adopt a very simple yet effective strategy that involves three things: limiting the pieces taken with each move, trying to stay on their own side of the board, and trying to force their opponent to play through their pieces so to give them moves on their side of the board. This is this undesirable region we just mentioned. For example, if black was to play d2 here, then white gets a move to f2 which cuts black's pieces up and starts to make it look central. Black, however, is going to try to avoid doing this, as is white. Watch the sequence of play. You should be able to clearly see why this opening is called rotating flat. Move by move, the position rotates clockwise until each player's pieces have finished on the opposite side of the bunch. Neither player wants to play a move on the opposite side, so slowly creeps around the edge for as long as it can, effectively trying to preserve the moves it has available. The theory being that if you can use up your available moves sparsely, then hopefully your opponent will run out of good moves on their side of the bunch before you do, and so be forced to make a loud move on your side. This is the easiest example of this in action, though you can find others that aren't played as often, such as this one. This type of play often won't be the best route in a position, because subtle complexities in other moves will make avoiding rotating flats better. However, these moves remain popular, especially amongst new players, because they are simple to grasp and easy to remember. If you're just starting out in Othello, this is an excellent opening as a starting point for those reasons. Memorise it, play it often, and use it to get yourself into the mid-game in a reasonable position. New players often lose games in the opening stages simply because their opponent is well drilled in a particular opening. We will look in coming videos at how to adopt a strategy of learning an opening to take advantage of your opponent's mistakes. However, the next video will look at a different method of limiting your opponent's mobility, called checkerboarding.